Have you heard the old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch? It essentially means that it's impossible to get something for nothing. And so when people are calling for more defense spending, we have to wonder if they're truly considering the ramifications of such demands, since that money has to come from somewhere. In Lithuania, there are a few things the government is doing or has done to make more money available for national defense. Unsurprisingly, some of those things have become rather unpopular with the public. We take a look at what's going on for today's video. First off, we should note that the previous Conservative government had already raised the corporate tax by 1% and also increased excise duties and introduced a temporary levy on windfall profits of banks, all for additional defense spending needs. But since then, more action has been taken to raise more money for defense. In January 2025, Lithuania's State Defense Council agreed to dedicate 5.5% of GDP to military spending over the coming 5 years. According to the president, there are no plans to raise taxes in order to meet the military spending targets. Instead, he says the increase will be covered by borrowing and cutting public spending elsewhere. A few months after this announcement, in April, it was reported that the Lithuanian government is expected to consider a proposal to require all ministries, their agencies, and budget appropriation managers to cut spending by 5% between 2026 and 2028. The one exception is, of course, the Ministry of Defense. The Lithuanian Finance Ministry estimates that the savings target for 2026 alone would amount to 137 million euros. If government ministries can pull it off, here are some of the savings that can be reallocated to the military. 10.4 million euros would be cut from the Environment Ministry, 14.5 million from the Culture Ministry, and 15.3 million from the Social Security and Labour Ministry. The Health Ministry and its associated appropriation managers would be required to save 15.5 million euros, while it's 15.2 million for the Education, Science and Sport Ministry. The Interior Ministry would be shaving off 14.1 million euros in spending. These are just the largest figures, and there are a few more ministries and numbers. However, we didn't want to bore you with the entire list. The bottom line is that all of these cuts across various government departments are meant to fund the military and national defense. But while the president stated that there were no plans to raise taxes, there are certain tax policies that may be adjusted so that the government has more money. There's a plan to scrap certain tax exemptions and privileges, along with changes to property tax, personal income tax, and social security contributions in order to raise more money for defense. Under the government's proposal for the new property tax, half of the revenue from this new tax would be directed to a national defense fund, with the rest going to municipalities. We won't read out all of these property tax rates, but you can see here what Lithuanian property owners will have to pay based on the assessed value of their properties. And for an additional example, the finance minister told the media that the real estate tax for a family with an apartment worth around 250,000 euros would cost 7 euros per month. Now, some of us around the world are used to the concept of a property tax, but clearly not Lithuanians. Outraged by the thought, they took to the streets of the capital to protest this new tax, with one sign saying, "What's next? A weather tax?" According to police estimates, around 4,000 to 4,500 people took part in the anti-tax rally. A defense fund has also been established with the opportunity for the public to donate money and also lend money. Since October 10, 2024, it has been possible to lend to the state through acquisition of defense bonds, which some people from other countries may know better as war bonds. Lithuania's one-year bond issue will offer a 2% annual interest rate for those who participate. It's essentially borrowing money from the public at a somewhat low interest rate, with participation being voluntary. A few weeks after the bonds were made available, it was reported that residents, businesses and other organizations had purchased nearly 9 million euros worth of the targeted savings bonds. The final thing to mention is a more direct form of borrowing, as the new government increased the 2025 borrowing limit by roughly 800 million euros, doing so with possible increased defense spending in mind. For this borrowing, however, we don't know what the interest rate paid by the government will be. With all of this information presented, we need to state clearly that this may not be a comprehensive list of measures taken by the Lithuanian government. And so for all the Lithuanians out there watching, be sure to add more details and information in the comment section if there's something we missed. Ultimately, military spending is expensive, and it doesn't come easily for small countries like the Baltics. Taxes are understandably very unpopular and almost political suicide for any government wanting to implement them. At the same time, borrowing has its limits, and economic growth is difficult to count on. So, what do you think of these various methods of raising money for defense spending? Let us know by leaving a comment.